All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Welcome to ArgoCon. All right, we have a packed schedule full of wonderful talks, amazing contributors, maintainers, end users. Lots of fantastic schedules been built, so I'm excited for you all to share that. We're going to be in this room and the room right over here. You'll be able to find it very easily, so if you're between the two tracks, whichever one you're moving between. Of course, code of conduct for CNCF applies. Please be polite. But without any further ado, we're going to kick off the day with something very special about to deploy.
In 2015, what I was observing was a major shift. Cloud had been around, but you were finally starting to see the large enterprises deploying a lot of workloads in the public cloud environments.
There were some people that were excited, and there were some people who were scared.
Kubernetes was becoming one of the most talked about container management deployment solutions. People were definitely falling in love with containers and the sort of experience of using containers.
We asked ourselves, well, maybe the time is right to create a product that can make all of these problems go away.
It became clear to me that we would need a new way of developing software, of designing software, but also deploying at scale.
My product actually was pretty ambitious in what we were trying to accomplish. They want to build a full CI/CD system, DevOps platform, on top of the public cloud. Basically a one-stop shop for all your service needs.
Their tagline was to make Kubernetes boring for enterprises.
We had to create, features that normally would take in a big company like months, and at Aplatix it would be like, let's do it by next Wednesday, and then we do it.
There was a lot of apprehension. There was a lot of distrust.
So it was like a cool tech demo, but I didn't think it was going to be world-changing at the time.
That's where we hit on the idea of basically taking our workflow engine and make it a standalone component that any developer could very easily try and use. So I talked with Alexander, is this something we can do? 2 days later, he had a working prototype.
During that time period, the need to solve software problems in a programmatic way got even more intense.
What ends up happening is we're like, okay, but now we need to operate at a much larger scale. We need a little bit more maturity about our deployment process. We need a workflow engine. We need to be able to do canary deployments, etc. And Argo essentially is the perfect solution.
Everyone is talking about Argo. The project was just coming alive.
Suddenly you had a tool that looked very much like the tool that I always wish I had. Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
By the way, do you like my attire? It's right for the moment, right? And so for those of you that have not seen this, I really encourage you to join us. It's going to be more than what you saw. And before I start and we talk about this, how's everyone doing? Oh, I just hear it from here. Come on. Yeah? It's too cold, it's snowing. Nothing from there? There you go. What about back there? I see. It's kind of, okay, I know I'm early. I have a very, very big task to get you all moving. So it's a great day we have planned for all of you. So first of all, thank you for coming. And I'd like to start by thanking all of the Argo contributors, maintainers, community members, end users, because what you are about to see is phenomenal. Thank you. We wanted to start by showing you the progress And it amazes me, it always humbles me over the last 4 years to see the growth, not just the growth in the usage, but the growth in terms of contributors, maintainers, features, the product actually just coming to life in so many different ways. And as the industry is changing, as we're getting into the new buzzword is AI or Gen AI, everything is AI now, you're going to see how companies are actually deploying and using Argo for AI use cases. Right? But before we start, again, as I said, huge round of applause to all of our maintainers and contributors. It's amazing. Okay. Okay. And I'll show you some stats later, but it's amazing to see this growth, okay? And a lot of events. We've had a lot of events that all of you have participated in throughout this year. This is, of course, the premier event that we kick off, but there have been tons of events and tons of things that you've all done throughout the year. Please keep those photos coming. Please keep those social media posts coming. We love it. And we love to see the engagement, okay? But, so where are we? Okay. So remember, as a project, when we started, there was literally 4 or 5 of us in a room. We never dreamed that we would be sitting here with 16,000, over 16,000 people contributing to the project. Huge. And when you look at the growth, just based on where we were last year, this is just growth from last year, right? So you can see that the project is actually shaping up to be even more wonderful. And when I start looking at stars, I still count stars. Everyone keeps telling me I should not. It's too late now. No one's going to give you a star. But I say I want to get to that magic 100K number. Maybe someday I will. So, But if you start looking at forks again, right? Can you see that? This is all of you. This is amazing to see that growth. It's amazing to see the number of people contributing. And like I like to say, feedback is welcome. Suggestions are welcome. Contributions are loved. Please contribute in any way that you can to the project, because this is what you do. Any kind of feedback, any kind of contribution, would be welcome to the project. Right? This is your project. Yes, there are companies, there are people that actually do it on a daily basis, but the success of this project is based on what you bring to the community. Okay. So as we look at the growth, we're also seeing growth in the number of companies that are deploying it. Now, Argo has always had this unique way of figuring out who uses our products. We started off by having a users.md file, and we asked everyone that was actually contributing or everyone that was using it to reference themselves. So that's the barometer, which is we have over 693 companies that have publicly referenced themselves on the GitHub project to actually state that they're using Argo. However, when you look at the contributors, there's over 2,500 companies that are represented amongst our contributors. And when I look at industry stats, there's over 4,000 companies that are actually using Argo in production. Okay. So that's a huge achievement for a project of this size and scale. And when you think about how it is being used, it's actually being used in the most mission-critical spaces, which is deployment, production deployments, rollouts, and actually starting to make the business for a lot of companies. Right? So the community is not slowing down. If you think about where we are the third highest PR authors in the CNCF ecosystem. What does that mean? What are PR authors? PR authors are authors that actually contribute. Whoops, what happened there? PR authors are actually people that contribute a new feature. Okay, so a new feature into Argo. Okay, step backward. My mic is right here. That's good. But now you can't hear me? There you go. Okay. So again, PR authors are people that actually contribute a new feature. Okay. A little different from contributors because then once a PR is done, when a new feature is introduced, there's a lot of people that actually start contributing to the feature and getting it going. So that's an amazing stat to have, we're the third highest, contributors for PRs, right? But if you start looking at the number of commits, comments, this is what keeps the community going, right? And this is what I say, is please contribute to the community. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know the feedback that you have, but more importantly, get engaged, okay? An open source project is only as good as the community that controls it, maintains it, and keeps it going. Okay. All right. So what did we do last year? Well, as you know, Argo has a number of sub-projects. We did over 125 releases. This goes to show how active the community is, how active the ecosystem is, and the number of features, defects, enhancements that we're actually bringing into the community. Okay. This is huge when you start thinking about how young this project is, because it's still young. Okay. And to see this kind of activity is amazing. Okay. So, what did we do? What did we contribute? Okay. Well, Argo, as you know, as I just mentioned, is being used by over 4,000 companies in production at scale. A lot of these are enterprise companies. So clearly the biggest requests and enhancements that have been coming along is to introduce enterprise-grade features into the product, right? Security, access control, a lot of these things that are required to operate in an enterprise environment. We've also started looking at the second piece that you see here, which is the Kubernetes in the CNCF community is growing. And as we start growing, how do we leverage that and take advantage of integrations into the ecosystem so that it actually becomes a lot easier for our developers to develop, design, deploy code by using new technologies, new products that are coming in, okay? And that's the second focus for the core of last year has been how do we integrate, whether it's open telemetry, whether it's API gateway integrations, but a lot of these integrations actually help us make the product better and also bring us into the larger ecosystem, okay? And the last one, who likes the Argo UI? Who likes the way it works, right? Okay. So the user experience is one of the most, I would say, phenomenal things that Argo got right very early on. We knew that we were going to introduce a product that was going to be used across the ecosystem. The user experience had to be perfect. And we haven't stopped. We continue to enhance the user experience and make it amazing for all of our users. I work at Intuit. We have over 8,000 developers. Not all of them understand Kubernetes. Not all of them understand containers. Not all of them understand how to deploy, right? But we want to make sure that they feel safe and they know that there is actually a lot that has been thought out for them as we start, giving them the reins to actually deploy and develop the software, but give them the control. And so a lot of the features that you see here are geared for companies that are actually like that. Now, all of you may not have a large ecosystem like that, but the goal really is that we need to make it as easy as possible. Okay? And that doesn't just mean the UI, it can also mean the CLI, it means the SDK, but a lot of things that actually enable us. So the overall experience is much, much better and good. So what did we do on the enterprise side, right? As I mentioned, the biggest things that we see here is fine-grained control. So access policies, RBAC, those are critical features that are required, when you start deploying it at scale. Okay. Secondly, security is an important issue. And last year, we achieved SALSA Level 3 certification, which is among the highest certifications that you can get, to enable the security level and the access controls. This is no small feat. A lot of you worked on it. A lot of you gave feedback. A lot of you filed, incident reports. But this is what made the product stronger, right? This is actually what makes us comfortable. This is what makes companies comfortable deploying it at scale and in production, right? In mission critical spaces, right? Okay. When I talk about ecosystem integrations, as I said, talked about the API gateway integrations, talked about open telemetry integrations, and this will continue. This is something that we continue to focus on. This is something that we continue to leverage. If you have any requests as you're starting to look around the ecosystem, as you start thinking about what else is new and how Argo would benefit from a particular integration, let us know or contribute. You see this theme about contributing? It's going to be, you're here, you're participants. You're not just going to sit and listen today, okay? So when you go out of here, I'd like to see a first PR come out from all of these people here, okay? Even if it's just a documentation fix, right? Okay. The user interface. The user interface has been amazing. Okay. We've had many, many, many tweaks to the user interface along the way. We continue to grow it. And the biggest things that we've introduced, okay, is multi-source support, both the UI and CLI. This has been requested by users, to let them manage multiple code sources effortlessly. But also, the UI for things like Argo rollouts, like the Canary step, plugins that we do, it enables controlled, safe rollouts along the way. Okay. These are important enhancements to the UI and the CLI, because it actually helps us make the product better, but it actually helps us, identify issues that can happen in production and grow them. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, there's a lot of buzz. I know all of you who uses ChatGPT or another chatbot on a daily basis. Daily basis? Yeah. Okay. I must use it like 20 or 30 times a day, actually. So, for everything, my personal life, professional life, and there have been tremendous advances. So what I'd like to hear is if you can scan that code for all of you. And what I'd like to see is what use cases you're using Argo for, ML or AI use cases, or what use cases you would like to see it support as we go forward. Right? By the way, it is already being used in a number of use cases, but I'd like to hear. I'm going to use this as an opportunity. We're going to come back in about 3 minutes and look at what you all put in. So don't be shy. Put stuff in there. Scan it, put it in there. If you cannot scan it, it's bit.ly/Argo UI. Okay. All right. Do I give you 10 more seconds? Okay. So, what is Argo being used for? Okay. Here are some of the use cases that we have had users tell us, right? They're being used for ML pipelines. They're used for AI application development. Okay. And the biggest thing is that as we navigate, this new space, as more and more applications are going to become AI native. We used to talk about cloud native. AI native is the new term for applications. We're going to start seeing applications that connect to LLMs or connect to AI features natively. As we start getting into more agentic workflows, applications will be calling AI agents, or AI agents will be watching and looking for signals that are generated automatically and reacting based on those signals, and using either LLMs or specifically tuned models. You're starting to see that, with the latest iPhone releases or the phone releases, the models are getting, smaller and smaller every day, and they're getting more focused. So as agents become wider used, you're just going to start seeing smaller and smaller models that are very specifically task-oriented. And that is really what an AI native application is going to morph into over time. Okay. So what do we see Argo being used for? Fundamentally, when you start thinking about ML pipelines, and by the way, Argo Workflows was first deployed in Kubeflow. When we first launched Argo and Argo Workflows, Kubeflow was one of the first open source projects that actually embedded Argo Workflows, and it became a core part of the workflow engine within Kubeflow. It's used a lot by other ML products for workflow generations, right? So when you start thinking about Metaflow, Kubeflow, a lot of these other projects that you see here, Argo Workflows is a core component of this, right? It's an amazing workflow engine. It scales very, very fast, rapidly, and it's used, to actually drive a lot of ML pipelines, right? And it has become a foundational tool, but there's actually more, right? Today, we've had over 8,000 companies that are leveraging this ecosystem, right? So when I look at the ecosystem that you have here, there's over 8,000 companies that are leveraging this right now to use it for their ML pipelines, for their data pipelines, right? And this is just going to go more and more, right? Okay. Now, that's a good number. 54% of companies using Kubernetes also deploy their AI workloads on it. Okay. Kubernetes is still the platform of choice, whether it's compute or deploying AI models or running AI pipelines, data pipelines, ML pipelines. The base underlying ecosystem is still going to be Kubernetes and containers because it scales. Right? So why are all these companies using Argo and Kubernetes, right? The first one is deploy. Deploy faster at scale. That is what Kubernetes is known for. That is what it was designed for. And it is clearly the best, in the game today. Okay. And as you deploy faster at scale, you also want to make sure that your costs are not spiraling out of control. Okay. So a lot of companies are using the benefits of Kubernetes and Argo to actually deploy faster at scale, but to make sure that their infrastructure costs are reduced and lower. Okay. And how do you do that? Okay. Well, when you want to deploy fast, you have a lot of the capabilities that are built in, right? Whether you do canary, blue-green, progressive delivery, automated rollouts, right? Whether you're doing A/B testing, all of these things, apply in the new world as well. They're not changing. Okay, and this is what it's being used for dramatically a lot today, but it's growing. The scale at which it is being used is growing now. Okay. Now, when we talk about things like Argo rollouts, how does AI play into that? When you start thinking about progressive deployments, looking at signals that are coming in, whether it's a model signal, whether it's a deployment signal, whether it's an anomaly that is being detected, that is what people are starting to use it for, and that's what we designed it for, is to really start looking at, are there anomalies in the system? Do I need to react to that? Can I automatically react to that and roll back or roll forward and continue with my deployments? Right? Yes, you can do that manually, but the automated ways are really where life starts to get very interesting now. Okay. Similarly, when you look at declarative configurations and infrastructure as code practices, Argo brings GitOps principles, right? That's what we started it brought it, GitOps is the widely used configuration for us, right? They provide a scalable, repeatable, and cost-effective way to manage Kubernetes infrastructure, right? But this ease of deployment coupled with, code efficiencies makes Argo a key part of the AI deployment company, right? And the reason I'm talking about all of this is because a lot of users have been asking us, whether it's through feedback or forums, about how they can use Argo more effectively in the new world that is changing and coming. And so this is why, as we start thinking about the roadmap, what we want to start working on, what we want to really start focusing on, it is important to understand what kind of use cases you all are looking at. And the core foundation is pretty strong. It is continued to get better, but we need to see what use cases we want to deploy more. And there may be newer use cases as we start looking at the ecosystem changing. Okay, so what's next? Now, as I said, go to the Slido again if you haven't done that. I'll repeat it again. Okay. And please give us your feedback. Okay. This is going to be important. Right? The community has grown. The landscape is changing. There are a lot of new things that are coming on the horizon. Okay. So scaling this project is important. Right? And as a community, that's the only thing that we ask for you. Right? Is to contribute, to bring the community together, but give us the feedback that you need. Okay. Now, today, I'm going to stop and talk about today. You're going to hear a lot from various companies that are using it, various contributors, maintainers. I'd like to close off my bit by, again, thanking. Okay. There's a lot of people, by the way, if you see that video, there's a lot of people that were actually involved in the early part of Argo and have stayed connected. But those are not the only people that are working on Argo. There are so many other people that contribute to Argo tirelessly, okay? And, it is important that, one, we recognize them. So please, a huge round of applause for all of them. Okay. But the more important thing is that we recognize that these people are doing it for everyone, and all of you are also doing it. So I'm going to close off again by saying, as I've always said, please contribute. And again, huge round of applause for everyone. Thank you very much. Okay.